I love that women started this Audubon Society that continues on. I mean, that is just awesome. At that time, the leadership was 80% women, and that it continues. I just think that's totally awesome. So I wanted to include definitely in the series a picture by Audubon. So this is in Washington, D.C. And I was with my sister Kate, and we were there for, I was in a show in another place, and we were just at the National Gallery, and I was like, there's an Audubon show. It was thrilling because I hadn't ever seen the real prints, and they're so big. And so this is a Trumpeter Swan, which I found out is the largest bird in North America, Trumpeter Swans. So I found out all this amazing stuff. This project has had me on a ride now for 14 years of like finding out this stuff and coming across different things. And this picture I took at the Met in New York, and it was in, I think 99 is when I took this one. And I was pretty innocently just like, oh wow, I was doing this project, and I thought, oh, I'll photograph this portion of this Rubens painting. And then I did a little bit of research and found out that it was done in 1615, Rubens did this. So it's called Wolf and Fox Hunt. And wolves and foxes were never hunted together, so it's an inaccurate depiction, and Rubens knew this, but the guy he was wanting to buy this painting was writing legislation. He was an archduke, and he was writing this legislation to get rid of these lowly, pain in the neck, what does it say? These destructive marauders, the wolves and foxes, because they kept destroying all the flocks and making people feel not safe. So this archduke wanted to get rid of these wolves and foxes. So Rubens painted them to help get his painting sold. And this woman, Susan Koslow, she wrote her whole like PhD on this painting and found all this stuff out. It's totally amazing to me. And that in 1615, that this painting was used for political reasons and, you know, specifically reflected interests of the Archduke. So now I'll go backwards just for a little bit. The beginning of this project, I was in graduate school, totally lost, had no idea what the heck I was going to do for my thesis project. I was working in black and white at the time. I don't know, some of you students, so do you feel that way, like totally lost? I have no idea what I'm going to do. And that's how I felt. I just quit my job. I was a graphic designer, like in a cubicle, like working a trillion hours a week, and I found myself in grad school, just unstructured, totally lost. And animals and plants and tapestries and found their way constantly into my pictures. There's Lucy, my mom's dog. And it pretty much, they infiltrated my pictures, and it was sort of this natural progression of discovering like these bizarre occurrences of how animals came into our lives. So I was doing it sort of unconsciously at that time. And then I set out, once I realized kind of what I was drawn to, I set out to do it really specifically, and I went to zoos and to see what I could find, and then I switched to working in color. I resisted. I really loved working in black and white because of its richness. It just is so, I just loved black and white. But the project was so perfect for color because it was about artifice and how we surround ourselves with animals, even if they're fake. And that I was photographing this one because the Marlboro horse was there. It's on Harrison and the Dan Ryan, which dates it because you can't have cigarette ads anymore. And I just wanted to get a picture of that horse, and then the truck went through my finder. And you know, I looked down on I was using a Yashica at the time, and I missed it. And I was like, damn, that would have been good. And then another one went through, and I got it, which was, so it was really, it just kind of showed me like the possibilities that were in this project. I was really sort of on fire from that shot. And this is a laundromat. I was doing plant stuff too, so there were like all these fake plants, and this is, I would wander. I had my dog, I wasn't married, I didn't have children, I'd just wander around and be taking pictures of whatever I would find, and I was in this laundromat and doing the plants, and then I saw this in the back, these parakeets, and it just sort of was like, yes, this is exactly what I want to talk about, that this misguided attempt at capturing this beauty from the natural world and holding it as our own was what I thought, okay, this is what I really want to talk about, because, it's, people mean well, but it's kind of pathetic, I guess birds are so social, so as long as you have birds with other birds, it's good, but it just opened up all these questions for me. And then I started photographing things to create questions about what's real and what's fake. And so this is this beer sign that we had. It was resting in the window. And I love the question of, like, how did you get that? As if I photographed that. I love that, like, question of authorship. So, this is like some beer sign. This guy came over to fix our radiators, and I had no idea where this sign came from. And he said, hey, I have that sign. And he told me he got it from a bar, so that's how I know it's a beer sign. I didn't even know that it was like it didn't have a logo or anything. So it was that was kind of a weird coincidence, I thought, that somebody would have the same sign. Anyway, so here's this owl ornament, and he's hanging from our fridge. And this is on this camping trip, on the way up to Wisconsin, going camping, and this idea of, like, why do we surround ourselves with lawn ornaments and these? It's so silly. It's also a transportation history in a nutshell, like the horses. I'm also very susceptible. Like, if I spot something, it's like, all right, everybody has to wait and till I'm done. It's like everyone in my family is like a victim of my whim of, oh, I see something. So I'm appreciative of patience that is exercised around me and help. So this is from the Field Museum. And so there's another thread, like natural history museums. That's another big way that we see and learn about animals. So this picture is something that I did a lot of research on because I wanted to find out who the anonymous artists that we see in museums, like who painted the backdrop. So it turns out this is Corwin, C.A. Corwin. He was an artist. He taught at the Art Institute, and he painted the backdrops at the Field Museum, in the dioramas. And he painted a bunch in the Field Museum, or at the Field Museum of Natural History in New York and some places in LA. And then Albrecht, they were buddies, C.J. Albrecht. They would go on these expeditions, and Albrecht was the hunter. So he shot these mule deer near the Grand Canyon and did the taxidermy as well. So this was at the time where, Akeley started putting the animals in more lifelike settings rather than in the Victorian age. They would put them in the case. So they would put them in these nice settings with the backdrop. Well, guess what I found? This is so fascinating to me. This is from Popular Mechanics, and this, on the right, you see Albrecht. That's the deer. That is the actual deer that he shot that's in this thing, diorama. That's Corwin on the left, and then this is a photograph of the scene. I was just telling my daughter, I'm like, Elsa, get this. This, she's 4. She was actually pretty interested. I said, I photographed it from the other side, and this is a photograph from the other window. So I found out all these cool things.